Welcome to Rising from the Rubble, the podcast where we share real-life stories of people who have faced life-changing events like burnout, redundancy, and depression, and found a way to rise stronger than before. I'm your host, Maria Newman, and as a coach, I help individuals navigate life's toughest transitions. Whilst listening to this podcast, you'll hear inspiring stories and coaching insights that will empower you to reclaim your confidence, redefine your future, and rise from your own rubble. It's now time to sit back, relax, and enjoy listening to our episode. Wafaa, what makes your story meaningful to others?
Having lived in 20 years of war in my home country, Lebanon, moved to two different cultures, looked after an elderly father, and the rest of being married, children, and the rest.
Who will benefit the most from hearing your journey?
Anyone who think they're stuck and they're struggling with life challenges.
What's the most important takeaway from your experience?
Acceptance, patience.
And it's that easy. So, Wafaa, welcome to the podcast. Now tell me your full story.
Well, I'm Wafaa, of course. I'm from Lebanon. I was born in Lebanon and the youngest of a big family, elderly parents. I was 14 when the war broke in Lebanon, so I was just about going into complementary classes and towards the high end of schooling, and then went to uni throughout the fall, and then I trained to be a teacher all through the war. Talking about the war in brief, because I don't like to sing and dance about it. It was a war, so I had to evacuate my elderly parents twice. Once we left home for a year, and once we left for a few months. And then plus the other things you have to deal with: no electricity, no water, get the shopping, take elderly parents to doctors. Will you be alive tomorrow? You won't be alive tomorrow. If your dad left home, will he come back? Your family, extended family, friends, all of that. So that was a tough time. But through it, 20 years is a long time. So in the meantime, I finished my schooling, got a job, had a car. I had a good life, I would say, because I wanted to live, of course. And I was, can't remember exactly the age, and then my elderly dad, my father, had a stroke. So had to look after him at home. My mom did the cooking and I was the carer while holding a full-time job. I was teaching at the time, because although there is hospitals he could stay at and be looked after, it's not the things done. And also I didn't feel I can leave him there. So that was tough. I'll tell you, anyone who hasn't cared for an elderly person, nobody knows half the story. It's destroying, to say the least. It's rewarding because you feel you're doing the best by your loved one, but emotionally, physically, mentally is absolutely destroying. But then my mind is at peace because I did, from all my heart, I did what I could do and it was good. So that was, I would say, that was on top of the war, that was very challenging when I should be living the life in my late 20s, early 30s. Then I had a good job, as I said, I had a good social life, and my life was, I made it the best. To be honest, I chose to make my life is the best. So whenever I could do, I did. And then without going into too many details, after my dad passed away, my brothers decided I need a break. So I went to South Africa, where I had two brothers. And one of my brother's best friend, 2 weeks after I landed, proposed to me. I knew of him, I didn't know him. And I thought, well, I'm 35, He's a good man. I know my brother knows him for 15 years. So I trusted my brother's knowledge of him. We hit it all right. And so I said yes. And he said, well, tell you what, instead of you going and coming, why don't we get married and I do your papers and you stay? And I thought, okay then. So I don't know, stupid, clever, I don't know. I led my life by how it felt, to be honest. Not much thinking at all. And I wonder sometimes if that is a good thing. Too much thinking sometimes comes in the way. But anyway, so I didn't go back home. I had one case of clothing. Of course, I had my brothers there. But so yeah, got married, didn't go back home, and finding myself in South Africa. He worked like workaholic, I would say. He was like working like most people do there. And so I was left in a home, pretending to be very happy. Didn't know what to do with myself. It's too frightening to go out there. You can't just get out and go. Didn't know a soul. And so that was 4 years of my life. I'm glad I didn't know then I was so depressed because it was tough. I was lonely. I was frustrated. I worked since I was 17. So suddenly 4 years inside doors, only on the weekend to go shopping. That was, and then 2 years into that, we had our daughter. So that was a little bit of distraction and positivity, but it was tough, absolutely tough. Then a year after we got married, I had to go back to resign from my job and sell my car and, say proper bye to whatever. And anyway, so that was in a way, being married, having child is all absolutely lovely. I wouldn't want life without that, but it was really another big challenge in 4 years of my life. Then for jobs changed, the situation in the country in South Africa was becoming more dangerous. My husband, being English, decided to come to England. So that's in 4 years, another big move. And I had no clue what England is, what's there. Having said that, we as Lebanese, because we travel a lot, you have an idea, general idea about the Western way of living. But certainly I never been, not on holiday or didn't know any English people before. So that was another shock. If I compare it, and that's not criticism, that's just cultural observation, we're very warm. We knock at doors. We open doors to anyone. And you know what I mean? All those simple things. You speak to anyone, and yeah. So I came here to find people very polite, very friendly, but like, don't come near me. Absolutely not. And I think I was very desperate. So I was like, I came with a force. I was asking everyone, inviting everyone, being friendly with everyone. I frightened them, apparently. So that was another, and then you know what you do? That's going to be my home because that's my husband, my children. I came pregnant, so we had our son here. So 2 children, didn't have a clue. I would say another 5 years of my life were like trapped. I would say the word, I felt trapped until I realized, coming from a country at war, I don't read the newspapers. I had enough of news and newspapers. So I didn't know I can do things, So I lived in the park with the children. They used to sit on the side and I used to go sliding and swinging because they had enough. It's hilarious, I know. But that's survival, So that was really, really, I would say, tough. And then I decided, when our son went to school, I decided I need to work. I'm not a stay-at-home person. So I thought, from what I wanted to do, and my qualification, I wanted to go into counseling. So I signed up, I passed, and that was interesting, very nice, traumatizing in some ways, especially, I don't know if anyone have an idea about study to be counselor. There is lots of dynamics, group dynamics, exercises. And of course, me being, English is my third language. So I had to double check that I'm understanding properly. So I was always asking. Apparently that was, I'm trying to take over and I am showing off and that's all in the group came up. And, what other words they said to me? Too much, and all of those things, So you take that when you still don't know where you are, your feet are not on the floor. But I managed through the course. And because I'm always interested in relationships, I went and retrained. I did extra training with Relate. And that was very interesting learning. And of course, when you do counseling, you learn a lot about yourself. So that was quite an eye-opening phase of my life for my personal journey. So that was interesting. But then I worked with Relate for a year. Then I decided I'm not going to be employed. I'm going, well, actually, before, to pay for the courses, I missed the most important thing. To pay for courses, I thought, what can I do? I don't want to work in a supermarket. What can I do? I don't want to go back into teaching. What can I do? I thought I'll teach belly dancing. It was the most silly idea that I thought. I was laughing at myself at the idea. So anyway, I thought, one woman at the school said, oh, in our village, the school is doing a fete. Why don't you come and do belly dancing? So I thought, okay, I'll teach belly dancing. So I had a few girls coming along interested. I never taught belly dancing. I never been on courses doing belly dancing. I danced all my life. But anyway, so I thought, okay, I can do that. So taught belly dance. Then I had a bit of interest. Okay, what do I do now? I don't know. I never done anything to do with business. Or anyway, all the kind people around me who said, oh, hire a hall. Okay, I'll hire a hall. So I went hire the hall. That was the beginning of what I still do now, 20 years on. Actually, that was in 2005. And it grew from one class to 4 classes a week, then it's gone down. But that's where I start making friends. And that was really, I would say, the first step in me finding my feet at home in England, in Wiltshire. And the first time I went into Tesco's, if I can name any supermarket, and and somebody said, oh, hi, Wafaa, how are you? And I thought, wow, I made it. I felt really like I've made it. And years after doing the belly dancing, so that's where my circle of friends started to grow. And that's when I really calmed down, settled. I found everything became easier, put it this way. So
wow, Wafaa. So because your journey, that's a rubbish word. Your life has included some major life events that the majority of us will never experience. And as you were talking, and you and I have talked before, your life, to a degree, mirrors my mum's story. It's just, you're from Lebanon, she's from Cyprus. And I've spoken to her about her experience. And hearing your words, like trying to put myself in your shoes, a young woman who has war happening around them, thinking, am I going to stay here? Am I going to have to leave? And then you left and you were able to come back, and then dealing with your father getting old and looking after him, and then actually leaving Lebanon and getting married to a man that you'd known for 2 weeks, which is not that different from my mum's. And then after, I think you said 4 years, moving to England. So all of those cultures are very, very different. And the environment in which you were living in was very, very different. What do you think is in you that means you can live in different areas and not allow your environment to like oppress you and bring you down?
Well, I reflected a lot on that, because when you're going through, especially early on in life, you don't think a lot. You just do what you think you want to do. What I discovered and that's very honest, I never gave any deep thoughts to anything I've done. I just felt with whatever felt right at that moment. And that I can say, now I understand how I operated. I think I haven't regretted it, and I still trust that. Doesn't mean that you don't face challenges, but it means you cope, you find a way. And I think when I talk to friends or people, and I think all my life, I jumped head first, and then I did swim, and I always swam, and I swam well.
I like that, and I swam well. I like that.
So yeah, it is. I can't pretend that I really anything. Nor my marriage, nor my move. I went to South Africa on holiday. I had no clue. When I was asked, I said, when they've asked me, I said yes. I did not think. What does it mean? What does it change? Not a thing.
So
And
you're just like listening to your gut and going,
going with
it's
the flow.
saying yes. So when I hear you say that, because you're saying it with such passion, there is no hesitation in your tone whatsoever. My question to you then is, you must have like strong self-belief to be able to not only listen to your gut instinct, also to go with your gut instinct.
Well, that is now I recognize it. I recognize that this ability to go with the flow and make it. I didn't know it throughout all when I was 20 and 30 and 40. I didn't know it. No. I think it was just sheer survival. But I'll tell you one thing I always had, and maybe because it's a choice I made early on in life. If I can't change it, I'm going to make the most of it. And you see, the same with having elderly parents. My parents were the age of my grandparents. I was the last one. I was a mistake. I was all of this, as you do. And then, but then I thought, I can't change them. So I'm not going to sit and moan and be beaten up by my elderly parents who made life difficult, because it's different, 2 generation difference. So ever since I was consciously made this decision, it just stuck in my head. So I tend to, whatever is, I know it's not, I'm stupid to the difficulty or the challenge. I know it, I cry, I whatever, write, dance, sing, whatever I do. But then it's this belief that if I can't change it, I'll make the most of it. Certainly been my strength, I would say.
And did you see that in anyone else, like when you were younger and growing up? Or do you think it's just in your DNA that whenever you find yourself in a situation, and we're talking about you making this decision unconsciously, it's a case of, well, I can't change it, therefore I'm going to do the best I can with where I am?
I think thinking that my parents, actually, I haven't thought of it, but now when you say my example, which I didn't look at it as an example, but my mom did her duty as a mom because she believed that's her role, so she did it. There is no question about this. There is no analyzing. There is no theory about it. She did what she could because she believed that's her role. My dad did the same. My siblings all did the same. And in those days, we're talking in the 70s, 80s in Lebanon. In my surrounding, there is other parts in Lebanon, people were more open-minded and more living more freely than my family, let's say, culture. Everyone did what they had to do because, and they did it. There was no, we should do that. There is no expectation of life. It's whatever you have, you deal with. So that was what I've seen. And I guess that's what was imprinted in me without me understanding it.
Wow, wow. So then you moved from Lebanon to South Africa. What like coping mechanisms did you have bearing in mind that you've moved from a place where you're surrounded by your family to, although you had your two brothers in South Africa,
But they were
because of the
far.
way of living, yeah,
They weren't.
it's still very.
I've seen them once, twice a month, if at the most. Yeah.
So you're in essence by yourself in a country that you don't know. You've only been there like 2 minutes, and already you're getting married. Then you have a child, and
It's scary. You can't go out. You can't go out. It's too scary. You're not safe in your home. You're not. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
so how did you cope? Like I said, what coping mechanisms
I
did you have?
I'm not going to make it sound like I had a wand in my hand. I cried a lot. I felt miserable a lot. I counted my blessing. I believe Dave is a good man, so I believe held on. I always thought of myself. I'm lucky because I married. I wanted to be married. I love that. I wanted the children, so I got that. I always counted myself lucky, and even in the days when I was crying half the day, when whoever human contact I had, I was smiling. Everybody believed I'm having the best life in my life. And I don't know. I think just being grateful, I would say, now thinking about it more and more, just counting my blessing and counting the good things I have, focusing on this instead of focusing on what I haven't got, made all the difference. So although I am aware of what I haven't got and what I'm struggling, and I cried it a lot, and I just sat, watched TV numbly for days and years, but I always smiled. I always believed I'm lucky.
So when you moved to the UK, when you came to England, did you feel a sense of relief?
No, absolutely not. The only thing I noticed straight away, and it made big difference, I could go out, walk in the street. Well, there I didn't dare, and I had a car. And I didn't dare. Not only I didn't know where to go, I didn't dare because you could be killed on a red light. You know what I mean? And I didn't know my way around very well to be safe enough to do. So England felt much safer. And what I loved here is the space, because we were in a nice, we're in Tripoli, so it's spacious. There is green. You see people going past the window. There is a car park, not car park, sorry, a park. I could take the children. You know what I mean? So that was felt a big relief. Yeah, that's something I always appreciated from day one. And I think the struggle then is to make it home, is to make this place my home. And it will only be my home if I made friends. And that I was very conscious of that. And as I said, it took 5 years, and they were really difficult. Because of course, you're dealing with different culture. You see, example, when let's say the postman knocked at, I wasn't, and the postman left. I knock at the neighbor to ask for my part. They keep me at the door, and they know me because we see each other outside. We say hi. As I said, people, I found them very polite and happy to chat, but that don't come near the door, and that's couldn't get my head around it. I could not get, and people, let's say at the school gate, you talk, standing, you talk. Then the following day, you go past them, like never seen you before. Those things really were a big struggle in my head. Plus the fact feeling I'm new, I'm lonely. Loneliness was a big part of it, to be honest. And of course, you have two children, and I would say, an older mom. I got married at 35. I was 37 and 39 when I had the children. Nothing, as we know, nothing prepare you for that. And I didn't know what to do with them. I didn't know where to take them. I didn't know. So this was really challenging. But then, maybe going back to the example of my parents, I was a mom and I had to be a mom. I was a wife, I had to be a wife. And then it's getting on with things. I know we're not supposed to say now, get on with it. Well, I don't know what is the other option. We can't just everything we don't like, turn our back and escape. Well, otherwise we will spend our life running backward. That's how I see things anyway.
I love the way you basically had a challenge in front of you, and it was a case of this is who I am, and I'm not going to allow it to hold me back. I'm going to make the best of this situation. I have a role in life, and I'm going to fulfill my role.
You see, perseverance, I think it has, at the time when you feel like, oh God, I can't cope anymore, in your head, you think, what else is going to happen, or how am I going to cope, or what is tomorrow going to bring? Then I think the belief, there is this innate belief that it will work, but it's persevering. When people, I invited everyone who will listen to me. Some didn't dare come, of course, because I was scared. And then the one who came didn't invite me back. And I think, what's wrong with you? When you invite back, not one for one, but you know what I mean? And I think I got to the stage when I picked up the phone and I said, can I come for a coffee? And people said, oh, sorry, we're busy, which is fair enough. People could be. But then when you ask twice and people never had in 10 years time to invite you back, the message, you get the message, So that was a cultural difference that made the first few years, really, until I got to my studies at university, sociology. So I've got master's degree in sociology. And I'm always very observant. But it doesn't matter what you know logically. When you're in a place and you're desperate for this to be acknowledged, to be seen, to be heard, to somebody talk to you. That's all I wanted, somebody just to talk. So yeah, but perseverance is a big thing of it, because there is also in my upbringing, there is no room for failing. So you don't fail. And when I was growing up, you don't fail, you don't make mistakes, as simple as that. So you're always conscious about keep going. You have this keep going, keep trying. And they served me well, I would say.
And I think when you said earlier how the lady saw you in Tesco's and you were like, yes, I've made it. Now, having heard more of your story, that makes so much sense, because you're right. We may feel comfortable in who we are. However, we still want to be seen and we still want to be heard. And that lady saying, hey, Wafaa, how are you? Acknowledging you and knowing you for you, as opposed to you being just someone else.
Yeah.
That obviously was I've arrived.
Yeah,
I've been seen.
I made it. I felt at home. At home. And then the nature of my business, when I started dancing, not knowing is a business, of course, I didn't have a clue. But then then friend became friends, and then you learn. I perceive, I'm happy to learn from observing others, what what doesn't work. And you try, of course, no one's lesson should be the same other person's lesson, but it widens your horizon, gives you ideas about what other people do if you're willing to see it and be brave to try it, and then you judge for yourself. Because we're all clever, as a human, we're all clever when it comes to, because we have to survive. So survival is, so we have the ability to do that. And when I thought, I did a few talks on resilience, and I thought about it a lot, and I think we all have it. I really believe maybe some more than others, but we certainly all have it if we acknowledge it. Because there is no life that is easy. There is not one human life that is easy, straightforward. So challenges are part of life, and I think we do cope, because the earth is full of humans who coped somehow,
Oh, well, believe it or not, Wafaa, we are actually coming to the end of our episode together. However, I do have 2 more questions for you. The first one is, what 3 things would you like our listeners to remember from your story?
Accepting that life is challenging, is not meant to be rosy. We like it to be, but it's not. And take initiative to invest in people around you. And I think that helped me in big through later on in life, much, much bigger problems. And I would say focus on when you can change and accept what you can't. It takes the pressure. I think we're bombarded by how we should live, and that life is this amazing. We all entitled. Entitlement, that's a word I forgot to mention. We're all entitled. The reality in life, there is no entitlement. So accept that life is challenging. Make the most of what we have. Acknowledge it. Be grateful, and focus on what we can change, and accept what we can't, and make the most of it.
I like it. So people listening to this episode will be saying, Wafaa, she is amazing. I need to be in Wafaa's world. Make it easy for them. How can people come and connect with you?
My kettle is always on, so people can message me and come have lunch, have dinner. I will have to be prepared, but certainly lunch anytime, coffee anytime. I am on social media. I am on Facebook as Wafaa Powell personally, and as Dancing Flavors, which is the name of my business. I am on LinkedIn. I am on Instagram as Dancing Flavors. So if you put Wafaa Powell, you just spell my name correctly, you will find me. It's W-A, 1 F, 2 A's at the end. So Wafaa Powell. And Facebook, Instagram. My email is wafaa@dancingflavors.co.uk. I love people. As simple as that. I just love people. And my arms are open and my kettle is on anytime. And I would love, can I just say one thing? I would love people to listen to my TEDx talks. It's a big thing in my heart, in my head. And I would love people to just listen to it. And it's called Share Your Cake on YouTube.
We'll put a link in the description for this episode so people can easily click and watch you. So thank you, Wafaa, for talking to me today.
Thank you, Maria. Thanks for the opportunity. You're amazing.
Oh, bless you. Right back at you. And thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. Thank you for listening to Rising from the Rubble. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Also, remember to download your free life assessment. Just click the link in the description to get started. Take care, and remember, every setback is an opportunity for growth. I'll see you next time.